Hi, I'm Mark Hoth and welcome to Swift Almanac. Okay, so our app's finished and we want to upload it to the App Store. Now this is a non-trivial exercise and you are going to be frustrated by all the things that you need to do in order to comply with Apple's App Store guidelines. Luckily, Apple is now very quick at processing App Store requests, and within 1 to 2 days you can expect to be approved or rejected with the reasons why. It used to be that the approval process could take up to 3 weeks, and that was a very long turnaround. Anyway, I've already uploaded the channel app 4 times prior to this, and it still has not been approved, but the next time I send it, it will be. So let's have a look at the process. Okay, now, so we want to get our final code into the App Store. So there's the first phase, which I always forget. And I've already uploaded this code 4 times and I haven't done this, so I better do it because I only want to upload it 1 more time. So what I do is, as I am coding, if there's something that I need to fix between when I'm in testing and when I'm in production, I use a comment, and the comment goes comment fix. So I just do a global search for fix in the workspace, and under constants, you can see here I've got this fix, so I can get rid of that, and I need to change production from false to true, and that's going to mean that my APNS is going to call my production URL instead of my sandbox URL, and that's obviously very important that we do. So just build the code and make sure it builds. Okay, so there's no problems there. So what we need to do is go to the Apple developer website and go into our account, sign in, and we want to go to iTunes Connect. And then over here on My Apps, well, if you don't already have the app, you just click on the plus symbol and you can create a new app. But we have the Members app, and you can see here that I've got 1 unresolved issue. But essentially what you need to do is you need to complete the information here. So you need to have the name of your app, and mine is Members for the Swift Almanac, and you need a URL with some privacy documentation. So you need a website for your app, and well, subtitle, access private content, and then you'll need your bundle ID and SKU. You'll be allocated an Apple ID, and you can say which category you want categories you want your app to be lodged under, what the standard agreement is, and there is this rating scheme that you need to fill out, and there are all these other questions that you need to do. If you go to features, then this app doesn't have any in-app purchases, so we don't need to worry about this section, but then there's also things on Game Center and encryption, etc. We didn't use Test Flight, but you can use Test Flight to send your app to other people given their email address prior to it being released on the App Store. And you can see I've got some previous builds, and then there's also this activity section, which is showing me what is going on. So getting back to the App Store, pricing and availability. This app is free and it's available in all territories, but essentially you can plan a price change, but you can set the price, and there's quite a nifty feature where if you say it's going to be $10 US, it will calculate the equivalent currency conversion for all of the other countries, so you don't need to individually allocate a price for 170 different countries. You can make it available for pre-order, but we're not doing that. And it's available in all territories, but you can select the territories that you want or do not want. And there's this thing about bitcode auto recompilation, and if you just leave it alone unless you've got a good reason otherwise, then leave that as is. Then you will get a iOS app, and these are the things that you need to do. You need to supply some screenshots of your app. You don't need the 5.8-inch display, but you do need the 5.5-inch display, and you can see there that I have 5 images for the app. And you also need the iPad display, and you can see here that I have 5 images there of the app running on the iPad. So this is the first problem that I had, because while I have an iPad and an iPhone, they're not of the same display. And you can see here that these ones here, the display shows a phone and it looks really, really nifty. So there, let's get rid of this. So to get these screenshots, what you need to do is you run your app on your phone and you do a screen dump just by holding down the home button and the side button at the same time. You get a screen dump, and then you download this application called Screen Pro, and you pay, I think, $7 or some such thing, and it tells you what kind of phone you have. And then essentially what you do is you go into the photos, you look at your photos and find a picture that you want, and it creates the picture and embeds the iPhone image around it. Now I've got an image of an image, because this is the saved image from previously. And you just click on save, and then that file is on your phone, and you copy that file onto your computer, and then what you need to do, I'll get rid of this QuickTime. And then what you need to do is find out the dimensions of the 5.5-inch display. Okay, so I've typed in Apple iPhone dimensions for the App Store, and it comes up here, the iPhone 6 Plus, 5.5 inches, and the landscape dimensions are 2208 by 1242, which of course means that the portrait dimensions, which is what we want, 1282 by 2208. So if you have you've copied that image off your phone, put it on your desktop, and then you open up Photoshop and you open the image up, then you just go to image size, and you'll get this window where you can resize the image, 1242, height 2208. You might need to unclip this chain, which does everything in perspective, and then you just save that, and then the image that you've got, it might be a PNG, or it might be, in fact it's probably a PNG, if you've gone through camera and whatever other Apple tool you needed to get the file onto your desktop. And what you want to do is you want to save this document as a JPEG file rather than a PNG. A PNG has some sort of like alpha field in it, which the App Store does not like. So, and I don't know myself, because I know almost nothing about Photoshop apart from the bare minimum. I've got no idea how to make a PNG without that alpha variant, and so I have to save the documents as JPEGs in order to get this to work. So I create those as JPEGs, and then we upload 5.5 inch displays, and then I am lucky enough to have an iPad, but of course it's not a 12.9 inch display, so I again need to resize all of these images, and basically the App Store says use, for the different displays, use different images. So creating all these images is what goes on. Then you need to have these searchable keywords, so Swift Almanac, iOS programming, developer, GitHub. You can put whatever keywords are relevant for your application, and then you have this promotional text and description text to do with what your app is, and all this information is on the App Store. I point the support and marketing URLs to my website, and then if you've got iMessage or Apple Watch, then you need to do these things. Now we're going to get rid of this build, and it says select the build before you submit your app, and then there's other generic information. We need to use our upload our app icon. Again, we will use a JPEG. And we'll put in a copyright, put in some details. I no longer live at that address, so you don't need to worry about that. And you have the version of your software, so this is 1.0. And look, that is basically it. You do need to create a test account in our instance because we're using GitHub. So it says users GitHub. Any GitHub username and password could log into the application. App review team will need to create a GitHub account. They are free, but we've also provided our test account and our test password, and you'll see that that actually needs to use that for the next iteration. So in case, what we'll do is app review team will need to use the above account which has full member privileges. We don't need to send an attachment, but sometimes if you can show some screen dumps for any complex processes, that's useful. And then for version release, you say automatically release this version, or manually release the version is you just want to know that it's ready to be released, and then you can manually come in and go, hey, at 9 o'clock or at midnight or whatever time frame you actually want to announce that your app is available. Then it might be the first time the app's available, so you might want to release that at a specific time. And the other thing you might want to do is you might say automatically release the app, but not prior to a certain date and time. So you might say, I'm going to release this on the 1st of February, so you can tell everyone about it. Go and check the App Store on the 1st of February. You type 1st of February in here, and even if it's ready on the 27th of January, it won't be available until the 1st of February. And then additional information is our resolution center. So let's go to the resolution center and see what has gone wrong. Oh, we better save our changes first. Okay, so under the resolution center, if we look at the first time we lodged the application, we had a performance app completion error. And if you look at this, the error message is your app crashed on an iPad running 11.2.2, which is the latest version of the operating system, connected to an IPv6 network when we logged in through GitHub and returned to the app on Wi-Fi. Here are crash logs, all that kind of stuff. So we had a crash. Now, if you do a search on Stack Overflow about this error about IP version 6, you may or may not be aware, but IP version 6 is not a requirement for internet connectivity these days. And there are plenty of routers out there that don't support IP version 6, but at the 2017 Worldwide Developers Conference, the WWDC, Apple announced that from that point forward, all apps had to be compliant with IP version 6. Now, this has caused a number of problems in the short term, in that if you rely on some frameworks like Firebase or Facebook, and those frameworks weren't IP version 6 compliant, then you could no longer update your app. So, and of course, we're using what are we using? We're using Alamo Fire, which is using URL session and networking code. So if Alamo Fire wasn't up to date, or Google Firebase wasn't up to date, then we could be in trouble. So basically I did that, and I updated all of the frameworks in the pod file and resubmitted, and it came back and it said it's still crashing. And I was like, oh dear me, this is pretty bad. And of course I was assuming that it was working on my iPhone, but it wasn't working on the iPad. They don't tell you in the response you get what it does work on, they just tell you what it doesn't work on. So I started to play around on my iPad and check it all out and see what was going wrong. And one thing I thought I could do is I thought that I could just go into the build settings and where are they? Here we are. And just general. And just don't go for universal, just go to iPhone, because we just really want to get the app running. But of course, we actually display YouTube videos in our app, and I'm assuming that most people want to watch those on an iPad rather than an iPhone. So it's really, might be a shortcut to get into the App Store, but wasn't really a great way to support you, the users. So what did I do? Well, I ended up looking at my Firebase code, and what I found, well, firstly, what I found was, just because Apple says that it's something to do with an IP version 6 network does not necessarily mean that it has anything to do with an IP version 6 network. So what I did is I went into the Firebase code, and I was just having a quick look because it's all in one file, so it's not really that hard to check through. And when I got to load current user, which is obviously something that happens at the start, or the login part of the login procedure, what I found was this guard statement was just saying let value. There was no guard statement. And in the initial case where the new user didn't exist, this was coming back empty, and it was failing, and there was a nil, and it was crashing. So the important thing to pick up here is just that these error messages that you get are sometimes cryptic and sometimes nothing to do with the actual bug that has been reported. So anyway, that problem is now being fixed. If we look at the last binary, that issue is no longer there. So the next issue that we came across was this performance app completeness. And this, oh no, that's the first issue. The second issue is this design issue. We noticed that the user is taken to Safari to sign in or register an account, which provides a poor user experience. To resolve this issue, use the Safari View Controller API to display web content within your app. The Safari View Controller allows the display of a URL and the inspection of the certificate from an embedded browser in the app, that customers can verify the web URL and the SSL certificate to confirm they are entering their sign-in credentials into a legitimate page. Again, this is something that Apple has forced upon developers since the Worldwide Developers Conference 2017, but luckily this change in implementation is really just 2 or 3 lines of code, and as I showed you under GitHub. In the last tutorial, all you need to do is, instead of passing it to shared.open URL, you pass it to SF Safari View Controller URL, and you need to create this delegate class so it comes back to this location. And one interesting thing here is we're calling this from GitHub, and we don't know what is the front window, because login could potentially be called from anywhere. So we call the app delegate, or we get the app delegate, I should say, and then this app delegate window root view controller, that is the front window in all cases, and so we can call present to present this Safari view controller. And as I said in the last tutorial, there is this Safari view controller did finish, which is sent when this process is completed, or if the client clicks on the done button when they're in this login screen. So that's fixed that problem. That one was pretty easy to fix. And then we have this legal intellectual property problem. Now, this is because, well, we're using the name Swift, and that is a trademark of Apple. So there's all these product name guidelines and things like this. And it says down here, for example, the following is acceptable: Almanac members with the tagline for Swift. And so I don't like that particular, it doesn't make sense, that particular tagline. But what it has been renamed to, if you recall, is members for the Swift Almanac. So that's compliant. And if we look back, I need to go back in here again. So that renaming has been done. However, we also use the Swift name in our icon, and if we look at our screens, ta-da, there is the name Swift. So I did a couple of things. Well, one thing I haven't done yet, so I can't actually upload this, but I haven't removed the Swift logo, and so from this point forward, the Swift Almanac logo is going to be this book on an orange background without the Swift 4, and that will placate Apple. And the other thing I did on the settings screen is I created a legal button, and if we just have a look, legal view controller, and basically all that does is it places a text field in the middle of the screen, and it says Apple is a registered trademark of Apple, registered in the US and other countries. Swift is a trademark of Apple Inc. Apple does not sponsor or endorse this product, and Apple is not affiliated with the product in any way. And if you go to Apple's, and you can see I've also added those lines here into the description. And if you go to the various places in Apple's trademark use or use of Apple trademarks, it tells you what you can and should say to show that you're not an Apple product, but to give Apple credit for and recognition of their product and work. So that is trademarks and things like that that you need to worry about. It hasn't saved that that image, but we'll come back to that. Intellectual property. And so eventually I figured out the IP6 problem. In the latest issue, app completeness, information needed. So in the latest issue, they basically said we don't have the IPv6 issue anymore, but they weren't able to fully check the interface and functionality of the app because they didn't have a members account. So I had to give them a full access, or have to give them a full access account so that they can check all of the information. And this legal thing, well, I just need to take the name off the images and redo the images and upload those, or just those ones with Swift 4.0 on them, and that should all be fine. Now, I would point out that see this, Swift Almanac. Well, Swift is actually being used as a descriptor here, or an adjective, and Almanac is the noun. So there really isn't, or there shouldn't be, a problem with using Swift in this way, because it's not being used as a noun or as a trademark. It's being used as a descriptor to describe the almanac. An almanac being sort of a diary or encyclopedia of information about something else, in this case the Swift programming language. But in any event, you're not dealing with legalese people, you're dealing with people who are following a script, and so you need to sort of comply with what they're looking for in order to get yourself through the App Store. And then finally, if we go back to this preparing for submission area, you need to add this, where is it? You need to add this build. So in order to get a build, you go to Xcode, and you've got your source code here and everything, and under product there's this archive option. Now, because we're selecting a simulator, it's not giving us the archive option, so oops, you don't need to show contents. But what you need to do is attach your phone, which is attached, and then select the phone. It can be any device, it just needs to be a device. And then under product, you will have the archive option, and archive will then build away. It's a bit of a slow process, but it will create a binary that can then be uploaded to iTunes Connect / the App Store. Okay, so what's happened here is the build has been completed, and as you can see here, it says it's version 1.0, but it's got the number 3, which is, well, this is the version, this is the build, and we've already got a 1.03, so this is in fact an error. What I need to do is I need to create build 4, and to do that, you just go in here, and you can see in our target, the identity is version 1 build 4, and just archive that. Should be a little bit quicker this time. Okay, so now we've got our build 4, and then you can validate that, and that'll just check to make sure that's actually valid, or you can just simply upload it to the App Store. And you want to make sure that all of those are checked. You want to have automatic manage signing. And then finally, you can check it all that it's there. And you upload it. So once your app has been uploaded, Apple then does some processing of that, and it takes about maybe 5 to 10 minutes, I suppose it depends on the size of your app, before the app will be available in iTunes Connect or that build, to attach the build to the submission. So so basically, once it gets uploaded, you'll have a 5 to 10 minute wait, and Apple will send you an email to the developer email account that you've logged in as, and it will update you on the process. So we'll take a 10-minute break, Okay, so there we have it. Our upload has been successful. So now we need to go into our developer site. Screenshots should still be there. They are. However, this is the build area where we need to click on this plus button to add a build, and you can see that these are the previous builds I've added, and there's this processing going on for 105. 104 never made it. Anyway, we'll get an email in about 10 minutes. You can see it's just been done here, January 17, 4:15. It's currently 4:25. So in about 10 minutes, we'll get another. We'll get an email telling us that's ready for processing, and we can just choose File and get out our GitHub logos. Find our iPhone logo. And there it is on our desktop. We'll open that. So there's our App Store icon. It's still version 1. As I said, I'm no longer at that address. And we can save that. And now all we need to do is wait for the build email to be sent to us, and we can attach the build and submit for review. So, okay, so it's, well, I think it says at 4:33, so it's taken about just under 10 minutes, about 8 minutes for the email to come through, and it says that it's completed processing. So now we should be able to add that build to our app, and then we can submit it for processing. So get out of QuickTime, get rid of that. Go into our build by hitting the plus button, and it doesn't show up. That's pretty fun. It's cached, so let's go somewhere else and come back. Why is it taking so long? Okay, well, it's up running, and it's remembered our App Store icon, so that's good. We go into build, and there it is, version 5. So we just go done, and it attaches. In fact, it's not build 5, it's not version 5, it's version 1, but it's build 5. And you can see here, if you want to remove that build and supply another one, you've got a negative removal button there. So you save it, and it saves that build to our app submission. And now we will submit for review. Okay, so it's got some export compliance. Do we have any encryption features since the last submission? And the answer is no. And then there is the advertising identifier. So what you need to do and understand is that there are companies out there that use this IDFA, which is, I don't know what it stands for, something international, digital, I don't know, who knows, as an advertising identifier. Does the app use one? And the answer is yes. Now you are now asking yourself, why have I said yes to this? And that's because we are using either Google or Facebook APIs, and we're using Firebase. So Firebase is using the Google API, and we're not serving advertisements within the app, but we do attribute this app installation to a previously served advertisement, and we do attribute an action taken within this app to a previously served advertisement, and then we put in limit ad tracking, and that's because all Google apps and API usage, it's putting little markers in and doing all the kind of ignoring your privacy type stuff that we can't do anything about, but that's the price we pay for using a Google product or a Facebook product. So once we've accepted all of that, we go submit, and now it says waiting for review. So at the moment, it's taking about 24 hours for this to go through. This version is still not going to get through because I haven't done the iPhone display update yet. It still says Swift 4, but my handy Photoshop programmer is doing those right now, but he's in a different part of the world, so I need to wait for him to wake up and send them to me, and then I will change those two images and everything should work correctly. So you should see in the App Store in the next day or two the little app members for Swift Almanac, and it will be version 1 with build 6, and then you can sign up and start using the app. So I look forward to seeing you there. Okay, so sorry that's such a long tutorial, but the process is quite complex, and I have covered off quite a few questions that you would be asking if you're attempting to do this yourself. I've showed you what can go wrong and what does go wrong and how to rectify it. So what you need to do now is you need to like and subscribe to the channel, and in a day or two check out the App Store and download the Swift Almanac members app, and then you'll be notified when when new tutorials are released, as long as other announcements. So have a good day. Cheers.